find strength, he ripped the cords asunder and rushed out to see the enemy. She said, Samson, I was just teasing you, baby, but you mock me. You mock me, Samson. How can you love me and mock me like this? Samson, tell me the secret of your strength, baby. Can't you see I care for you? I will never betray you. I love you. You better only trust the words of God. You better only trust the promises of God. Because the promises of men will fail, but God's promises stand forever. What he says, he will do. 3 times. Let's come to the second to last time. Samson, could you tell me the secret of your sweetheart? If you take my locks and you tie them up, if you take my locks and you struck them, if you take my locks, then I will lose my strength. She took what she had to take and she did what she had to do with the locks. But the locks were still there. He still had an opportunity to walk away from sin. I tell you now, before you go too far from God, you can still hear the voice of the living Lord. You gotta stop what you are doing and walk away. He jumped up when she shouted, the Philistines are upon you. He shook his locks and he rushed out to see the enemy. But every time he answered the devil, he got closer to his destruction. You don't have conversations with the devil. I say you don't have conversations with the devil. Don't talk with the devil. You've got to rebuke him, because every time you talk with him, you are coming closer to destruction. Jesus turned these stones into bread. Get thee hence, Satan. Man shall not live by bread alone. And when you finish talking, you've got to keep on moving. Are you listening to me, church? But Samson, he stayed in her arms. Eventually, she said, tell me the secret of your strength. God is graced. Tell me the secret of the strength. He said, Delilah, only because I love you. And she knew now that he was sincere. If you put a razor on my head, I'm a Nazarite. If you put a razor on my head, I will lose my strength. I want you to note something. Note something when you read this story. She was so convinced that this was true that she put him to sleep and called the enemy to help shave his head. She was convinced. This is it. The shave his head. His hair was his last symbol of consecration to God. When you cut your consecration with God, you will become like an ordinary man. It doesn't matter who you be or how long you have been in this church. Anytime you cut your consecration with God, you will become like an ordinary man. It doesn't even matter if you stay in the church. It doesn't even matter if you stay in the church, as long as you cut your consecration with the living Lord. Your standards will change, your dress will change, your behavior will change, your attitude will change, everything will change, because physical battles are won in the spiritual realm before in the physical realm. Praise the Lord. But Samson did not understand. Is there a reason he could have taken foxes held them by their tails, light them a fire. What no ordinary man could do was because of divine strength. What he did not understand is that when you can take the jawbone and you can rip that animal apart, I tell you, church, is not ordinary strength. That is divine. But when you lose your consecration with God, the reason you can stand now for your Sabbath is because you are connected with God. The reason you can stand against sin is because you are connected with God. The reason you can stand for the principles of God is because you are connected with God. But the day you lose your consecration with the living Lord, you will become like an ordinary man. Samson's hair was cut. The Philistines, when they caught him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. When he got up, he wobbled. Oh, Church of the Living Lord, they grabbed him. We gotta end it now. They grabbed him. They were so filled with devils that they dug his eye out. Are you listening to me, church? One author said they used fireballs to take his eyes out. They dug his eyes out and they chained him like an animal. Are you listening to me, church? They chained him and they took him down, and then they give him the work to do of an oxen, of a horse, of a donkey. The devil brought him from the pinnacle of a hilltop to the bottom in a valley and had him doing the dirty work that weak men do. When he was divinely given, when he was God given, when he was sanctified for a special purpose, now he's doing the work of a donkey. Now he's doing the work of an oxen. He was a disgrace. He failed God. He failed Israel. He did not live up to God's expectation. He did not live up to God's expectations. How many of us in this church have not been living up? How many of us have not been living up to our commitments, to our vows, to our promises? How many of us have not been living up? Well, I have news for you. If Samson's story had ended there, then we all will leave here with no hope. Are you listening to me, church? If Samson's story had ended with just his eyes out, with him pulling an oxen, with him pulling like an oxen, pulling like a donkey, then we would have left here without hope. But the Bible tells us the story did not end there. Somebody was praying for Samson. Somebody was praying for Samson. Oh, church, the first one is God's dealings. The second one, God what? Disgraced. The second time, the third one, is God's deliverance. Is God's deliverance. Church of the Living Lord, while grinding like a donkey, while walking like an oxen, God was still looking at him. Are you listening to me, church? Others had given up on him, but God, I say, but God, when father and mother forsake you, God will stand by your side. Others had written him off, but God was standing by, waiting to mold him again and make him over. Others had taken their eyes off of him, but God was watching over him day and night. Oh, he was waiting for one moment. He was waiting for one moment. God stood waiting for one moment, and that was when Samson would come to himself and he would say, Father, I have sinned against you. Father, forgive me. For if I confess my sins, you are faithful and you are just to forgive me of my sins and cleanse me from all unrighteousness. God stood waiting, and then Samson, one day he said, I know I let God down, but I will still go to my God. I know I've been a disgrace, but I will still go to God. I know folks are mocking me, but I will still go to God. I know my eyes are out, but I will still go to God. I know I'm chained like an animal, but I will still go to God. Because God has promised never to leave me, nor forsake me. So I will still go to God. He went to God. Every day he spoke with his God. And I believe his prayers were this: Father, forgive me. They believe it's over, but it's not done until God says it's done. Father, forgive me. They believe it's done, but it's not done until God says it's done. I know my eyes are out, but it ain't done until God says it's done. I know some of us, we are in tragedy, we are in calamities. You feel like giving up, but remember, it ain't done until God says it's done. And Samson prayed, and he prayed. He knew that God had another move. The Philistines mocked him, but God had another move. God always has another move. When Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden, the devil thought it was over, but God had another move. He gave them a promise of a coming Messiah. When the children of Israel were trapped by the Red Sea, the devil thought it was over, but God, I say, but God had another move. He made a highway through the waters. When Jacob was running from his brother, a thief and a fugitive, the devil thought that it was over, but God had another move. I won't let you go until you bless me. I tell you, church, God always has another move. When David committed adultery with Bathsheba, killed Uriah, condemned by everybody, God, I say, God had another move. He made him a man after his own heart. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were trapped in a burning fiery furnace, God had another move. A full person to observe the heat. My God always has another move. When Samson was grinding like a donkey, his eyes out, being mocked by the Philistines, God had another move. His hair began to grow again. Church of the living Lord, my God is not finished with you yet. He will cause your hair to grow again. He will bring back your past glories. He will bring back your past life. He will even give you a better life. Samson did what he never did before. He stood between two pillows and he pushed them asunder, rooting up the foundation of the very building that was impossible with God, with man, but possible with God. He did what he never did after he repented of his sins and came back to Jesus. It doesn't matter who you are. If you come back, God will do what he never did with you before. This is the God we serve. How many of us here today, like Samson, we disgraced God? Like Samson, we messed up before. God is saying to you today, I'm waiting for one moment. And that moment is for you to say, Father, I'm sorry. And I'm coming home. I'm waiting for one moment. How many of us here today, we failed God in the past? But I have news for you. God will never give up on you. He wants to renew your strength. He wants to turn your life around again. He wants to bless you abundantly, exceedingly, above all that you can think, ask, or desire. All he wants is for you to say like Samson, I'm sorry, Lord. Give me a second chance. And I will serve you for the rest of my life. If you want to